and you have that sun directly in your eyes, think of your eyes as the cameras. So if you can't see looking out your windshield, the cameras can't see either. All right, we're back today with another Tesla video. Now, today's video is not really a do's and don'ts of full self-driving or Tesla Autopilot, but more so of a recommendation of what I think people should and should not do when they're using either Autopilot or full self-driving with any model Tesla. Now, yes, the car is designed to be able to drive through all of these situations. It's not as perfect in these situations yet, which is why I would say whenever you get in one of these situations mentioned in the video, just disengage your Autopilot, disengage your full self-driving, take control of the wheel for those few minutes until you're back into a normal setting. So click like, click subscribe, indulge in your life at indulgeclothing.com for the merch. And now let's check out the 5 times when you should disable your Autopilot. Time number 1 is whenever the road looks like this and there's no lines in the road. Right now the car can see the lanes. You can see that there's lanes here, but as I come around this curve, the lanes on the screen and the lanes in the road will disappear and the car will kind of go in the middle. So most people should know this by default, but you see now there's no lanes and it's slowed down a lot because it just doesn't really know where it needs to be since there's no lines. So recommendation is make sure that you have lanes, clear lines. Now, yes, as you could see in my video, the car was still able to drive. It just doesn't really know where to go because it's trying to use the cameras and the sensors to see lines and see grass and everything else. And when there's absolutely no lines and it just has a road, it just does its best to be in the middle. Now, this is a situation where you don't necessarily have to turn off full self-driving or autopilot, but it's just smart to. This is when that it could have more issues seeing things due to the fact that it doesn't have those lines. It could go off course easier. My rule of thumb is when I don't have lines, I'm not using full self-driving or autopilot. Now, the second time that you may want to reconsider using your autopilot or full self-driving is whenever the sun is super bright either in front of you or behind you. Let me explain. So this here I would call the sun issue. The sun is directly behind me, pretty bright. And as you can see, it is actually reflecting off of the car in front of me, which this can cause issues with the sensors and everything around the cars. So if you were using full self-driving and the sun's either directly in front of you or directly behind you and you're getting some weird movement, I would just disengage because the sun can affect the sensors and the cameras. And so see how it's like really bright off of that truck right now, it'd be messing with the sensors. It doesn't look as bright as it is in my eyes. Like, trust me, the chrome on that truck is really bright in my face. So in that video, it was actually kind of hard for you to see exactly what I was talking about, but that video was shot early in the morning and the sun was coming up behind me. Because the sun was coming up behind me, I had super bright sun beaming into the back of my car, which was beaming into the truck in front of me, creating a ton of reflection. Reflections and the sun can cause issues with the cameras and with the sensors, causing you to have lane shaking issues and stuff like that whenever the car is in full self-driving or autopilot. So I would say if it's super early in the morning or maybe super late in the evening and you have that sun directly in your eyes, think of your eyes as the cameras. So if you can't see looking out your windshield, the cameras can't see either. So I would say just keep it safe and disable your autopilot or full self-driving if you're in one of those situations where the sun's directly behind you or directly in front of you, which is going to be a very small amount of time. Now, another time that you may want to disable your full self-driving or autopilot is if you see these little repair lines in the road like shown here in my video. Now, this is another time that you may want to disengage autopilot or full self-driving. You see how there's all of this repair on the lane? This repair sometimes tricks the system and makes it think that that is actually the line when it's not the line. We have used full self-driving in this area and had it kind of going erratically all over the road because it couldn't figure out what the line was. We drive on this street every day almost, and they have those repair lines for a couple of miles, and I can tell you that from my own personal experience driving a Tesla Model 3 with full self-driving, that I've had plenty times where I've gotten to that section of the road, I've tried to enable autopilot or full self-driving, and it works, but it just like moves around. And I think what it is those black repair lines in the concrete kind of confuse the car from what's an actual line of the paint and what is a long line of the repair. So after us driving on this road for the past month, because we live out here and we're going to and from Marietta and everywhere else, we go down 278, they have those lines, and it doesn't like them. Now, your car may not have that issue. You may be in an area and you have those same repair lines and it may work fine. Props to you. Maybe you have newer hardware, newer cameras, newer computer. My Tesla's on full self-driving hardware 2.5, so it's definitely not that old, but you never know. So I definitely recommend to just drive during those times. Now this one should kind of be a no-brainer, but there's plenty of people who really think that Teslas can 100% drive themselves with their, hands behind their head and their feet kicked up, but not in a construction zone. As you can see, there's cones all around us, which is fine and dandy, show up on the screen, but the issue becomes when one of these cones thinks it's in front of your car, like happened here in my video, and then your car comes to an abrupt stop, causing a wreck. I would always just say, if you see traffic cones, disengage and drive yourself. Now in that video, what I was talking about was a previous video I made where I was coming around a curve, and basically the Tesla thought that one of the cones was in the road. So it beeped really loud, it basically came to a super abrupt stop, and luckily the very nice Range Rover that was behind me was able to shoot in the other lane and go around me. I really just think that trying to use autopilot or full self-driving in a construction zone it's just not 100% in those areas. All it takes is that one curve, like I was going through, where it thinks the cone's there and it's not, it slams on the brakes, the person behind you doesn't stop, you wreck, you go off the side into someone else who's working. It's just not worth it. And then last but not least, number 5, I would say, is of course, rain. I mean, think of it kind of how I mentioned it with the sun. Think of it as you're driving and it's raining. How much can you see? Well, with windshield wipers, you're probably able to see pretty good. Your sensors and cameras don't have any windshield wipers. So if there's a drop of rain in front of the camera on the sensor, it could cause it to not see something. It could cause it to see something that's not there. There's just endless possibilities of what could really happen if you're trying to use full self-driving or autopilot when it's raining. Now, is it technically made to do that? Yes. But it's just another one of those times where I would say disengage it, get both hands on the wheel, and drive the car for that short amount of time. So that should essentially do it. That's the 5 times where when I'm driving, I disable my autopilot or my full self-driving just because the software is completely amazing. And I even have videos of some amazing things that the software has did, but it's not going to be perfect. And in those situations, it has a harder time being perfect. For example, with the repairs in the road, it thinks it's a line. With the sun, it can't see just like you can't see. With the rain, it can't see just like you can't see. With the construction zone, it could think something's in the wrong spot. It's a great software, but it's not going to be perfect, and that's why everybody is supposed to pay 100% attention while they're using this and not just, recline their seat and let their car drive them to Walmart. Now, I do have a lot more trust in this software than I had a month ago when I first got it. These are just my recommendations and things that I've noticed because I've used autopilot and full self-driving a whole lot during this first month, and these are the problems that I've came across. So hopefully this video was helpful to somebody who's maybe buying a Tesla or just bought one or wants to know a little more about autopilot and full self-driving. Hopefully this would give them some ideas of times when maybe they should just take the wheel instead of trying to let the car drive itself. So click like, click subscribe, indulge in your life at indulgeclothing.com for the merch, and I'll see you in the next video. Deuces.